Hi guys, it's Ben here from T-Rex Space Station. This video is a little bit of a video response actually. I'm going to be responding to a video that was posted by thejoyofsticks. And his question was, why do you play retro games? Or why are we so obsessed with them? Why do we collect them? It's actually a really good question. It's one that I've not actually thought about. I've just known that I really like retro games, but I've never actually tried to sort of pin down what it is about them that I like so much. Um, for me, I suppose it comes down to a few different reasons, and I'm going to say these in no particular order. One reason for me is definitely the nostalgia value. There's something about kind of recreating that fun that I had when I was a kid, going back to those slightly more innocent and naive times, and just kind of, yeah, reliving those memories that I had when I was a kid. You know, some of my most exciting or fun video game memories are of when I was a child. You know, things like when I got my first Sega Mega Drive for Christmas, and I can still remember how excited I was, how amazing that was that I had my first own console. And getting those games back just reminds me of those days, and it makes me feel happy, almost in a sort of childlike way that I used to, back then when I first got the Sega Mega Drive. I think there's more to it than just nostalgia, though. One thing I would say is actually I really like the graphics in retro video games. I like the pixel art style. I like seeing things that are hand drawn. Some of the LucasArts games, like Day of the Tentacle, for example, are my favourite games graphically, and I think they look absolutely timeless. Those games were specifically drawn in a very cartoony style, and I don't really feel that goes out of date. And I just love to look at those graphics, but even beside the cartoony style games, I like pixel art. There's something about seeing that old style of games that just look pixelated and blocky, and it's it's just nice to look at. I don't find that I have to have a game that looks really, really beautiful to enjoy it, but more than that, sometimes I actually prefer games to look retro, and I just like the whole art style and the pixels of it. I think pixel art was a definite skill, and some of the LucasArts games are just fantastic examples of the level of skill that people got to. I actually find that some of those hand-drawn games date much better than ones that tried to do earlier 3D. Some early 3D games actually look very painful to go back to now because they're a little bit blocky. But actually games that were a bit before that, when people weren't trying to do that, just look just as good today as they ever did. Another thing I would say is that the gameplay style of older games is very different to modern ones, and I've talked about this before in some of my videos to do with how difficult you like your games. I don't think modern games are necessarily easier, but it's a different approach. There's more tutorials and what I would call hand-holding and kind of slowly getting into the action. If I think about games on the Mega Drive and earlier systems like that, you're much more kind of dropped in at the deep end, and you have to learn and get skills and actually just develop at the game in a kind of, well, you die, you have to keep repeating. And there's something nice about that. You can just pick it up, get in there, and just kind of get going with it. I like the kind of pick up and play aspect of older games, and I do feel that they're challenging in a different way, a way that sometimes I appreciate a bit more than more modern games. The other thing I would say about retro games is we all kind of like to find a bargain. I mean, modern games tend to be at a set price, and that price seems to be getting more and more these days. I think that it's like 45 quid now for a game almost, which is crazy. But there's something about going on eBay or searching online somewhere and finding a hidden gem and getting it for really cheap, and that's part of the fun of retro games. It's something that's valuable to you, that you appreciate, that isn't at a set value. It's at a value that you kind of determine for it, and you pay for it. And so the bargain hunter in me is drawn to retro games in that sense. Like the whole collecting thing is just, yeah, it's just cool. The other thing that I would say is that maybe part of the reason why I like retro games is just because I'm unbiased. I don't think about whether a game looks good graphically, and that's it. I just like a good game if it's a good game. Some people can't look past dated graphics, but that's not me. So maybe aside from the fact that I specifically like old games, part of it is just that a good game is a good game. And I'm not a biased person. I don't have a difficulty with graphics looking old or looking poor, in inverted commas. In fact, I don't even need graphics at all. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to use my imagination, and I can do the same thing now. One of my favourite games is Ancient Domains of Mystery on the PC. That's a roguelike game, and that just uses ASCII graphics. There's no actual graphical interface, and I don't have a problem with it. I suppose it's just being comfortable with yeah, just taking a game for its gameplay and not focusing too much on how good it looks. It's very hard to pinpoint why I love retro games, but I'd be interested to hear what you guys think. Just get a bit of discussion going on this. It's something that's hard to sort of you put your finger on, but I've tried to do it in this video. Those are some of the reasons why I love retro games. Alright guys, take it easy and I'll see you all soon.